This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm talking about your money personality type and why it matters. Today, I'm talking about the gambler money personality type. This is perhaps the most dangerous of the money personality types. According to Ken Honda, author of Happy Money, for the gambler, quote, the thrill of risk and promise of reward is a pleasure unto itself that you can quickly get lost in. I've encountered gamblers in my career as a financial advisor, and while this money personality type can often be driven by greed, its telltale, at least for me when I recognize it, is more subtle than that. The gambler is always positive, they're always helpful, that their big bet is going to pay them back 2x, 5x, 10x, 100x, whatever that may be. And they always ignore the cautionary advice about what could go wrong. No, nothing's going to go wrong. No. It's like a guarantee that they'll make this money and that they'll win big and that somehow they've stumbled onto some genius investment strategy or scheme. If you're the gambler type, you're comfortable with putting 80% of your net worth in something speculative or like Bitcoin or some penny stock pharmaceutical company that's on the verge of some huge breakthrough that's going to 10x, 100x, whatever it is. And not just putting a little bit into these things, but all in, putting all your chips on the table. And sometimes gamblers become this way too, not because it's their natural personality type, but because they're actually trying to make up for lost time. So at the precise time when they should become more cautious and careful with their investments because they're near retirement, they realize like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have enough money to catch up. And so they see speculative investing as the only way they're going to be able to grow their nest egg big enough to retire. While gamblers can see their bets pay off, and you hear about it all the time, especially with online influencers. I mean, rags to riches tales are as old as the Bible. Like it's as old as time. The unfortunate reality, though, is that while you hear about these rags to riches tales or big gambles paying off, the unfortunate reality is that if you are a gambler money type, yes, you could have wins occasionally, but the losses tend to accumulate and the losses almost always win out in the end. Unfortunately, I have a long list of horror stories, some of which involve fraud and the FBI, the police, because gambler types are so seduced by the promise of huge gains that they miss the warning signs that something just doesn't smell right. And also, unfortunately for the gambler, is that any advice for how to not be so far gone in this way or to not fall into some of the pitfalls. Of all the money personality types, I would say that the gambler has not a lot of upside. Sure, you could strike it big, you can hit the jackpot, but again, it's pretty rare. If you're not a gambler, you never have that opportunity to win big or hit the jackpot. It's more of like the tortoise approach to building your wealth over time, which for someone like me who's not a gambler, that's preferable. I'd much rather be a tortoise than to put all my chips on the table, risk it all, and risk losing it all as well. Even if the prospect of gains is there, it's still not worth the risk. But if you're a gambler, like that doesn't even register. It doesn't make sense. You're like, why wouldn't I take this big gamble? Because the positivity and the hopefulness from big gains makes the advice that I would give this person often fall on deaf ears, which is just don't make such big bets. If you have the fortunate situation of actually making money from your big bets, you need to stop when you're ahead. And that advice is pretty much always met with a smile and then the will to plow ahead anyways, despite the massive risks. And I think a happy medium for a gambler type is to designate some small portion of your investments as your mad money. Maybe 10% of your investments. That's a good place to start for a lot of people because even if you have meaningful wins in your 10%, like you hit the jackpot with that 10% of your nest egg, that's your mad money, it's not big enough. 90% is still invested prudently. So it's big enough to make a difference and you can just keep kind of playing with house money if you're making money. But it's not so much money where if you lose all of that 10%, you're going to be in a state of complete financial ruin. Also, you want to stick to that Mad Money account. So if you end up losing it all, you're just going to have to pick another money personality type because you can be a gambler no more. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.